Welcome to Civic Hub, where local leadership meets big ideas. I'm Chris Marotti, and this is the podcast that brings you straight to the decision makers shaping our communities. Each episode, we sit down with local leaders, elected officials, and change makers to dive into the strategies, innovations, and challenges shaping the places we call home. On this episode of Civic Hub, we sit down with Jeff Prang, the Los Angeles County Assessor, to explore how the largest local assessment agency in the nation is navigating complex challenges, from rebuilding public trust to modernizing outdated systems. Jeff shares how the role of assessors is evolving and how technology is helping his office better serve nearly 10 million residents. All right, so this week on Civic Hub, I have Jeff Prang, the Los Angeles County Assessor. Jeff, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Give me a quick snapshot of what your role is. What does the LA County Assessor do? What does it not do? Just to help the general public understand the role a little more.
Well, thank you for that question. The first thing, I'll start by telling you what I don't do, because what I don't do is the one thing everybody thinks I do. I don't collect taxes. I'm not the tax assessor. I'm just the assessor. My job is responsible for assessing the valuation of taxable property. A few notes about our office. So I'm one of three countywide elected officials. I'm the least known of the three. The other two are pretty infamous. That's the sheriff and the district attorney. I'm responsible for the largest local property assessment agency in the United States. A staff of about 1,400 employees. About half of them are real estate appraisers. We're responsible for determining the value of about 2.5 million real property parcels and business assessments annually, which last year were valued at over $2 trillion and which generate close to $24 billion in property taxes, which is allocated to county government, one of 88 cities in LA County and over 50 school districts, and it pays for basic public services that people rely on the most, such as police, fire, roads, public hospitals, libraries, parks, et cetera. My office is one component of a very complex puzzle that deals with property administration. I think the property tax system in California is designed for maximum public confusion. So the way it works is if you buy a house, you record a deed, and you record that deed with the registrar recorder. That deed is then sent to my office, where I assign an appraiser who will determine the market value of the property. We then turn over that data to another department called the auditor controller, which is the department which tells you how much you owe. They assign the tax rates and all the special assessments, et cetera. And then they turn that data over to yet another department called the treasurer tax collector, which issues the bills and collects the payments.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to look at LA County. You know, if we zoom out, I think it falls in the top 20 largest economies in the world.
I think it's even closer than that.
Yeah.
California is the top 5th or 6th largest economy, and I think LA County is not too far behind it. But it's
absolutely amazing.
3,700 square miles with about 10 million people. The population of LA County is about the same as the state of Michigan.
Wow. So what drove you to come into this office, and what led your kind of career of civic engagement? What's the roadmap? If someone is listening, how can they become an assessor or get engaged into local politics and into local government?
One thing I've noted, I've been the assessor since 2014, and almost everybody who is an assessor, there's 58 counties in LA, in California, so there's 58 county assessors. Most of them, this was not something that was on their radar screen when they began their career. A lot of people saw that there were job opportunities in county government with the assessor's office as an appraiser, and they went and became an appraiser trainee and worked their way up. In a lot of counties in California, the assessor is usually the number 2 guy, and they kind of matriculate into the number 1 job when the assessor retires. I took a little bit different of a route. I've been in government most of my adult life. I've worked as an aide to elected officials, including an LA City Council member, a member of the State Board of Equalization, and to the county sheriff. I was a city council member myself in the city of West Hollywood for 18 years, where I also served for 4 terms as mayor of that city. Before I came to work for the assessor's office in 2012, I was an assistant city manager as an administrator in municipal government. And I came to the assessor's office in 2012 as an advisor to the relatively new assessor at that time. I was responsible for public affairs, communications, but I wasn't there very long. I was only there for a few weeks when things came crashing down. The district attorney raided the office. My predecessor actually spent time in jail on charges of corruption. So I was in a state of shock when I had only a brand new job just for a few weeks long, and suddenly it's under this cloud of controversy. And my tenure there was, at least in my mind, was not for certain. I didn't want to be associated with somebody under
Indictment.
allegations of corruption. But fortunately, he put himself on a leave of absence, and we brought in the Board of Supervisors brought in a reform administrator to clean things up. And I stayed as part of that reform team for about 2 years until the time for the office to be back on the ballot in 2014 came up, and I decided to throw my hat in the ring and was elected.
What are some of the challenges you see when you get to this level of office? How do you run 1,400 employees, and how do you, what kind of leadership qualities do you look for? I'm sure you have a large, several department heads and just a lot going on there.
So I think being a good manager entails knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know, and surrounding yourself by people who are more talented and who are smarter and more capable than you. At least that's been my approach. We have a number of very strong managers who worked their way up through the ranks of the department, and I kept them in place as senior administrators of the office. These are people who've developed skills over decades and really know the business. We try to look for those people who show strong leadership and experiential skills and place them accordingly. I don't assume just because I'm in charge of the department that I know everything and that somehow or other my vision or my thoughts are should dominate. I try to listen to my senior managers and listen to their advice and take their advice when I think it's appropriate, and more often than not it is. But it's a constant challenge.
When you look out on the horizon of the office, how do you think technology is going to help you, in your workflow? Everybody, every day, we talk about AI, machine learning. How is that being adopted in your office?
It's critical in our office. In fact, it's been fairly transformative since I've taken office. So when I was elected in 2014, I inherited an old 1970s and 1980s mainframe, green screen, DOS-based legacy system.
Wow.
It was still a predominantly paper-based office. The 2.5 million property files that I referenced earlier were still each associated with a paper file. So if you were to call the headquarters of my office downtown, I also have a number of district offices, but if you were to call downtown about your property with a question, my staff might have to go to about a half a dozen or more green screens to get information. Those green screens didn't have a very robust depth of information, so we made it to refer you to a regional office where your property file was maintained. And so you might be sent out to reference to our Culver City office. And then whoever you talk to might need to put you on hold or agree to call you back, because they'd have to leave their desk and go to this big cavernous room full of files to find your paper property file to research information on your property. Terribly inefficient and cumbersome. These old legacy systems that are still commonly used in government have not been used in private industry for decades now. So I think a lot of people are shocked on how antiquated government technology platforms remain. So we began a process to change that. And we have since digitized all of our property files. We entered into a contract with Oracle to upgrade our technology platform from an old mainframe system to a new cloud-based system, which went live last August. We are using AI technology to help us do our work. And we have transformed this department technologically by investing over $120 million in technology upgrades.
Wow, that's amazing. I get the opportunity to meet individuals like yourself all the time, and it's very clear that county government, local government, and even state government is almost 2 decades behind where private industry is. And, we still have counties in the United States that are using microfilm. They're still heavily reliant on technology that was developed in the 50s and 60s. And it's not surprising to hear that, but it sounds pretty powerful where you're going with that.
So if you're in California and you've had to use the Department of Motor Vehicles or the unemployment office, everybody complains about how inefficient that is. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're still on these old mainframe technology platforms. The Social Security Administration or the Veterans Administration at the federal level, these are agencies which are still using antiquated technology that would be laughable in private industry today. But the one thing we also know is that they have huge jobs to do. They have to continue to be able to do the work while they're doing technology transformations. And that's really enormously expensive and complicated. So we're a relatively modest sized agency compared to those others. And it costs us over $100 million. So when you're looking at the Social Security Administration, you're probably talking about hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade their systems. Although I think they really need to have to do that. Just as we have to invest in physical infrastructure, such as roads and bridges, which can be very costly. We need to do the same thing in government with our technology, which should increase efficiency and customer service and employees' ability to get the job done more effectively in the future. But these are huge investments that I think need to be done. My office is just one example of what could be achieved by making that investment.
If members of the general public and your constituents are listening right now, what is the easiest way for them to communicate with your office?
We make communications with our office available through a variety of sources. Probably the best thing to do is to start just going to our website. Almost any question you might have, we've tried to address on our website. We even have a chat bot where you could ask questions that will answer most of the commonly asked questions. We also do encourage a lot of direct engagement. If you have problems with your assessment, you can still call and speak to an appraiser and ask them what your questions are and present information. It might help us to make a better decision about your value. You can also submit questions online, or just with the old-fashioned way, send us a letter or walk in the office. But we'll take customer service inquiries any way that they come.
How many offices would you say you have, or satellite facilities throughout the county?
So we're starting to increase the number of offices. We used to have 4 district offices: North County, South County, East and West County, plus a smaller satellite office up in Lancaster. But we're now breaking up some of our offices into smaller offices so we cover more areas geographically. Although we're also doing that just due to the nature of the office market in LA County. It's easier to find smaller offices than it is big offices. And with traffic in Los Angeles County, we do want to have offices spread far enough so people don't have to drive too far sitting in LA traffic.
Yeah. As you look out to the future, what are some of the things that kind of excite you about the office, or different maybe community engagement programs that you think you can line up, or maybe stories you can share about your office or about the records that you oversee?
Technologically, we're looking for opportunities to continue the digitization of our documents due to a recent flood that we had, where we, in an area where we store thousands of historic map books. We're starting to digitize all of our historic map books, which are still documents which are used in real time today. We're looking to incorporate more AI into how we do our appraisal. Using AI to jumpstart evaluation will help save our appraisers time in preparing those appraisals. But we also really try to focus on messaging to the community about how, the role that we play in their lives, in the lives of local government. What I talk to with my staff is about what do we do at the retail level? How does the average person need to interface with us? What happens when your mom and dad die and you inherit the property? There's things you need to do. And if you don't know what to do, you could end up getting a supplemental tax bill and penalties and interest. And there's a lot of things that involve our office that people just are not aware of. So we're trying to provide that messaging as conveniently as possible. There are tax savings programs that people don't know how to access. There's other programs that allow you to, for example, to sell your home and buy a new one without being reassessed and getting a larger tax bill. So we work really hard to try to reach people where they are through community organizations, through local media, through podcasts such as this, to try to talk about those things that are important and impact people's daily lives. We've created ways on our website for people to engage with us. We send out a monthly newsletter. We give people the opportunity to set up their own personal profiles with their property on our website so they can do certain tasks without having to come to our office, such as updating your mailing address or applying for certain programs. One of the things we've released relatively recently is an anti-fraud program called the Homeowner Alert. There's been a lot of incidents of title fraud in recent years. People will change the name on your property to their name, then they'll go and take out a loan and essentially almost steal your property from you and load it up with a lot of debt. We have a program they call the Homeowner Alert, where anytime something's recorded on your property, you'll get an email notification within 48 hours. So if it's fraud, you have time to respond. Otherwise, you got to wait for a piece of paper in the mail.
How does somebody enroll in that program?
Super easy. You go to our website, you go to Homeowner Alert, and you type in your property address, and then give us your email address, and then you're in the system.
Great. Yeah, I know that property fraud and fraud alerts are a real problem in certain areas of the country, and having a proactive approach to that is...
It's growing, and there's a lot of services you can pay for. Now, ours is not a specific anti-fraud program. It's simply an alert telling you that something's been recorded.
Yeah.
And so you may have recorded something, such as a grant deed or a deed of trust that you intended to be there. This email will be a verification that occurred. But if somebody else is attempting to do it, it's also a verification that somebody's attempting to commit fraud against you, and you'll have the opportunity to reach out to law enforcement authorities to stop it before it gets too far.
Yeah. When you guys look at the record collection in your archives, most of your records going forward, they're all born digital, correct?
Going forward, yes. Prospective documents are digitized, but we still maintain historic records going back to the founding of Los Angeles County, which was in 1850. And those documents still are those are working documents, and they need to be preserved. Because of that flood, we've kind of jump-started our program where we are preserving the actual physical documents, but we're also digitizing them so they'll live in a number of different areas.
Yeah, and those will get loaded up to your Oracle system, right?
Yes.
And is that system, is that public, private? Can individuals access it? How does the visibility work?
There are certain documents that we maintain that are public record, and those will be accessible to members of the public from our website or from the county's open data website. There's other documents that we maintain that are not public record, that are in our files, and only our employees can access those. Digitization of our documents, of our maps for employees is really transformative, because it used to be that you had to physically be in the location of where those files were maintained, but now any employee, no matter where which office they work in our department, can access those documents online.
Great. When you look at the time that you've spent in, at the city level, at the county level, what are some of the things that you look back on as kind of, this might be viewed as maybe a highlight in your career, or something that you might be considered part of your legacy that you want to leave behind? What would you want to be known for as the assessor of LA County?
Well, two primary things. One, I like to believe that I added confidence and integrity back to the office following a very dark time with the scandal involving my predecessor. The department's the trust by the public was shaken, and we are a department where people really need to feel confident that we're being fair and that we're being accurate in how we deal with their property, because their taxes and what they pay is dependent on that. And I think we've done a very good job of restoring public confidence in this agency. In a lot of ways, the bar for me when I was elected was pretty low. All I had to do was stay out of jail, and we would have been increasing raising the bar. But the one thing I learned as well is that when there's a crisis, there's also an opportunity, because people wanted us to be successful. They wanted us to overcome that crisis, and people were willing to give us a great deal more latitude in making investments in the department to ensure that it would continue to be an agency that they can trust, and we took advantage of that. I think there's a management axiom: never fail to take advantage of a crisis, and we did. That's why we invested in this technology. That's why we invested in new ways of doing our job, and I think we've taken an agency that in 2012 was at its very lowest point, that we are now regarded as one of the best-run assessment agencies in the United States. We have twice been recognized by the International Association of Assessing Officer with the highest award that could be granted to a public assessment agency. It's called the Certificate of Excellence in Assessment Administration. It's a year-long review by the IAAO to look at everything that the department does in terms of process and administration. And we're the only California county that's ever received this designation, and one of fewer than 100 out of 2,200 nationwide. So I feel really good about the legacy of leaving a department that works better for the public, that works better for our employees than the one that I found, and it's an agency that people can have confidence in.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story, Jeff. Coming from where it was in 2012, seeing where it is now in 2025, it's an amazing transformation, modernization, increasing accessibility, not only for the general public, but the workflow for your employees. You don't get to see these stories too often, especially in the unique situations like how big LA County is,
When you're looking for exciting stories, nothing like property assessment.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I think we'll end it there, but it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on, and hopefully people can understand what the LA County Assessor does, what they don't do, and if they have any questions, they can visit your website and have direct access to one of the best assessment offices in the world.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. We are at assessor.lacounty.gov, and thank you for the opportunity to share this information about our office.
I love it. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mic check. It's co-file Chris with the clarity, breaking down the system like a tech barbarity. Civic Hub's live surfing knowledge like a tsunami, rolling through the info smooth Maserati. Civic vibes, we innovate and elevate. Local government shift, let's recalibrate. Tech meets transparency, the gap we abbreviate. Civic Hub anthem, come participate. Street lights buzzing, city halls we navigate. Machines in the council throwing out the candidate. Blockchain buzzing, Chris gonna moderate. Algorithm steering votes, lines automate. Plug in, gather round this pod like it's holy. Future blueprint drafted digitally solely. Ideas hatch quick, think it's gotta be Goldie. The Civic Hub thrives where the minds all moldy. Policy precision sharper than a switchblade. Red tape slayer, break it open with the upgrade. AI council, tech dreams don't cascade. We building the future, bricks cut from the data spade.